Because I feel like every podcast is always like, what's going on? And I guess that's what I say too, but it's just like, but it's always, that's how it all starts. But I think, you know what? Fuck every other podcast. Like, I mean it.
They're not us.
No, they're not us, but it should just kind of like, they're just like organic. Like, we're just talking. You know, before we jump into fantasy, actually, give me your thoughts on the college football playoff real quick. What do you think?
I'm glad that fucking Alabama's not going to be there. I think Georgia's going to fucking steamroll just about everybody.
I mean, Alabama's still 3 right now, which is kind of like worrisome.
But they still got to face Georgia.
But if they beat them, Cincinnati's out.
Yeah, but it's not going to happen.
Here's what I think, though. And everybody's like freaking out about this whole thing with like Cincinnati. If Alabama beats Georgia and Cincinnati gets bounced out, all it means is it's going to force the hand of the NCAA to expand the playoffs. That's all it's going to do. And I have the perfect idea. I think it already should expand. Hear me out. College football playoffs should be 8 teams. All it is one extra game. So instead of Georgia playing a 13-game schedule, they just play a 12-game schedule because they're going to have an extra playoff game potentially. And then what you do is you give 5 automatic bids to each conference winner of their championship to the Big 5, that being the SEC, Big 10, Big 12, PAC, and the ACC. They all get an automatic bid for winning their conference. Then the best team out of the non-Power 5, i.e. Cincinnati this year, they would get an automatic bid. And then your 7th and 8th team, 2 wild cards, whoever the committee wants to make money off of. Alabama and Ohio State have 2 losses, pull them in. Unfortunately, that's the only way Notre Dame could get in, but it would kind of put a big old fuck you to like people that are like independent and they're like, we want to keep all of our money ourselves. And it forced people to join conferences too. But I think that's the best way that nobody could bitch. Because like, why didn't my team make it? Well, you didn't win your conference championship.
Well, I disagree with that because the Pac-12 is absolute shit.
Well, yeah, but they would be the 8th seed.
Why award anybody that's absolute shit? And then you have the SEC biased that you're going to try to get 3 SEC teams in regardless.
Who cares? It wouldn't matter if they get 3 in because every other conference plus a non-Power 5 is automatically represented. So who cares if 3 SEC teams are in? Who cares? All right, what's going on, guys? Welcome on into the Second and Short fantasy podcast titled The Cheap Seats. This is episode 20 with your host, Tyler Lauder, and our fantasy expert, Jason here. And that's a little sneak peek of what we're going to be doing when we come in here. We're going to talk about football, talk about sports, maybe talk about a little bit of fantasy hints, just kind of get the show going. And now we're going to dive on in. And today's episode is very relevant because Jason's dealing with trade negotiations right now for a running back. We just saw Dalvin Cook, Christian McCaffrey get hurt this past week. We know that Derrick Henry's been out. We see other running backs kind of battling injuries. DeAndre Swift also got hurt. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about running back windows. And I believe it is the only position in fantasy sports that have a true window. Like, I feel like I mean, everything has a window, but like when you look at a quarterback, Drew Brees was startable for 17 years. That's not really a window. That's a whole road. A window is a small frame of when their value is at its best. When you're looking through your house and you get to your window, you can see out your house better than you can against that wall. That's what a window is. When the value is as clear as day. So we're going to break down 3 different tiers of running backs here. And we're going to kind of go over, I don't even know how to call them, like seasoned veterans, kind of veterans, and pretty new to the game, not counting rookies because obviously their window's large. And we're going to play a little game called Are You Going to Hold? Do you need to sell now? Or is it a little too late for you to sell and you miss their value window? And we're just going to roll because we got a lot of names here. And none of these names are going to take forever, but we're going to just give our opinions. We're going to go back and forth. We'll take turns on this. But we'll start off with, we're going to start off with these older guys, older. So we're going to talk about Dalvin Cook. So what do you think is Dalvin Cook right now? You're a fantasy owner. You have him. Are you holding him? Are you trying to sell him for his value? Or is it just too late?
I'm holding him because, I mean, yeah, he does. He is injury prone, but in that offense, he does produce. So, yeah, with the passing game opening up, I think if they get rid of Kirk Cousins, his value absolutely skyrockets. But his injuries do concern me. So I've got him on a really short lease of holding him at least one more year to see if this trend continues. If it does, then he's immediately on my trade block.
But here's the thing, though. With him being a hold for you, if you hold for one more year and he gets hurt again, then you're hit that too late. So like your window for him is literally going to be like weeks 1 through 5 next year. And he's got to be like running back top 10. And then you gotta pull the trigger on. Yeah. You gotta sell now in hopes, unfortunately, that he gets hurt again, or his value just tanks.
Or what you do is you see that preseason hype, he's looking better than ever. You know, if your league drafts later after OTAs and everything you start seeing that hype, you start hyping him up, you put him out on that trade block, you start filling your offers, you start getting younger, and you roll the dice then. But I was going to say week 1-4. You was giving him a little bit, 1 week more, but I'm looking at that first 4 weeks that I'm selling him. I'm going to hype him up in OTAs, coming back, rehabbing injuries. I'm going to very closely monitor those first 4 weeks. Week 3, after that game, week 3, he immediately goes on my trade block, and I start seeing what's out there to see what I can get back in return. Ideally, I'm going to be looking for younger at the position or feeling an absolute need, such as a wide receiver 2 and with a plus draft picks. So that's what I'm looking at, and that's my idea on somebody like Cook.
Yeah, and I mean, you have to hold right now. Real quick before we're going to clarify some things. Don't ever trade a player when he's hurt. His value is never going to be what you need it to be. If they're going to return from injury, you wait until something happens. And otherwise, you kind of forced to at times. So let's move on to the next name. Let's move on to a bigger name. We're going to talk about Christian McCaffrey. Now, Christian McCaffrey, for me, I think he's a sell, but I think he's like one of those hold sells. Now, what I mean by this is I think you need to wait till he's healthy. I think Carolina puts him on IR because they understand that their chance of making the playoffs are slim. He's hurt. He's not 100%. We're not going to risk it. He makes too much money. And I know for a lot of people that's hard to understand, but Carolina just is protecting their assets is all they're doing. What I believe, though, is once he's healthy and we get that offseason hype, we're going to get a combination of two things that is going to help you get the most for Christian McCaffrey than you can right now. I mean, about 3 weeks ago, as he was coming back from injury, I traded away what is going to be a late first-round pick and a free agent waiver pickup in Cordell Patterson, and I got Christian McCaffrey from somebody because they were feeling greedy. They needed to win now. Cordell Patterson's outproducing, so they took him. Come this offseason, when McCaffrey's looking even bigger, looking in better shape, you see him cutting, and your rookie draft comes around, and i.e., the 2022 draft isn't good. For those listening on audio only, doing quotation marks here, because it's not going to be a good class. We always say that shit, but it's probably going to be just as good as other classes. You're going to be able to sell for more because you're going to get the combination of, holy shit, McCaffrey looks good. These draft picks aren't as good as normal. You know what? I'll give you 2 first-round picks from McCaffrey, and you're going to get to strike gold. But it's literally week 2 is like your window. It's even shorter than Dalvin Cook.
See, I'm totally off the reservation on this, and I'm going to go completely against you. I'm getting rid of. I've shipped every hold I've had on McCaffrey is no longer on my team. I got when this season started. I had felt in my gut the injury concerns. I got Jonathan Taylor in 2 firsts.
Yeah, that's then though. We're talking about now.
Yeah, no, I'm saying, and then just recently, I sold McCaffrey and I got 2 firsts. It's going to be a mid and a late first this coming draft, which I'm going to package and move up. My deal with McCaffrey is his running style contributes to his injury status, him being injury prone. And you being the Carolina Panthers fan, you follow the team. You and a couple of other people I know follow the team more closely. So you're also not the people I'm going to be targeting when I am selling McCaffrey. But McCaffrey is a immediate sell for me currently because I don't trust him anymore based on his running style. And you could probably agree with this. We've talked about it off air. The coaching staff in Carolina don't know how to use him properly.
Joe
to
Brady,
keep him healthy.
Joe Brady has got to go for McCaffrey to be more valuable. 100%. That offensive coordinator, I think he's got to go.
So you also got to take into that effect, because if you're in some of these leagues like we are, they're highly competitive leagues. Sometimes you don't get the average Joe in there. You've got people that know their shit. So you have to target people at the right time. And McCaffrey's somebody that I'm selling at right now. I'm getting him off my team and getting whatever value I feel I can get out of him currently.
Now, let's move on to a fresher face. Let's move on to another tier. We'll come back to this old man tier in a little bit. Let's talk about Austin Eckler. Now, Austin Eckler, injured last year, came back, though. But when Austin Eckler plays, he's on fire. He's PPR dominant, which is the format we're talking about here in Dynasty. And we're talking about all Dynasty. We're not talking about redraft right here. This sounds weird. I know we're about to hit the playoffs and everything, but like my interest in redraft, as the season goes on, it just goes down. Like, it's really fun to draft and to kind of play and everything, but eventually nobody trades. You have a trade deadline that cuts off everything, which I don't think Dynasty should have. I think Dynasty should never have a trade deadline. Another discussion for another day. But let's talk about Austin Eckler. What are you doing with him?
Oh, I'm holding on to Eckler. Eckler is a PPR machine. And I'll be one of the first people to tell you, I was totally not on board with the Eckler hype. I was late to the party. I almost missed the bus on this. I came around. I've got a couple of shares for him, and I overpaid to get those shares because I believe in him that much. That offense, listen to any of our previous podcasts, our love for Mike Williams. Keenan Allen is still a beast and going to draw attention there. Herbert is just getting better with each game and getting more comfortable. So that offense is going to start improving even more. So I'm all in on the Eckler train, just like I am. We are on the Mike Williams train.
Now, here's my thing, though. Don't you think this would be the best time after right now? He's like running back 2 in most PPR formats. When the season ends, wouldn't it be the best time to sell Eckler? Because he's not old by any means. And he's not a guy that is like too broken up. But after the season's over, he's going to be hitting 27. And that's kind of like a cutoff year with running backs. Now, we saw guys like Brian Westbrook play to like 30 high level. And we've seen other guys. That's like my closest comparison. And I think that if you want to get his peak value, you need to trade him this offseason. Now, when we say this, though, it is very hard to do because Christian McCaffrey 2 years ago literally destroyed everybody in fantasy. 100 plus catches back-to-back years, 2,000 total yards, just dominating by getting you 40 points half the season every week. But if you trade him at his peak value, you can get gold. And when you can get gold, it's worth a lot. That's the whole point. It's like it's worth a lot. But as you start breaking that gold down and it starts getting a little more damage, it becomes smaller, its value becomes less. And I think that although Austin Eckler was the hardest guy to try and sell because he's the easiest guy to slot in, and you'll probably never get true value for him. But after a season where he might finish as the running back 1 in fantasy formats, he might be a guy that you could try and sell for multiple first-round picks and run with. Because if you're not turning and burning these guys, you're doing this wrong. Receivers hold forever. Quarterbacks hold forever. Tight ends never let go if they're great. But running backs, it's wood in a fireplace. Just keep replenishing it, going back out. That's me.
Well, also the thought on that is of Eckler like that is he doesn't really have a lot of wear and tear on his body. Yes, he is going to 27, but some of those early years, he was just a third down receiving back. He wasn't getting a lot of wear and tear. So that expands his longevity and his shelf life a little bit, in my opinion. That's why I'm saying hold on to him, because he could be a centerpiece or RB1 to build around. Now, on the flip side of that, this time next year, he's still putting up those numbers. Oh, he's out the door to get that maximum value, because you have history. You could go off, well, look what he did last year. He repeated it this year, but you run that razor thin edge of somebody's going to come back. Well, he's 27 years old, which I counter. Yeah, he is. But let's look at his early career, see how much wear and tear he's got on the body. So that's my counter on that. But yeah, I mean, Eckler for me is a hold to build around, because worst case scenario, he's going to be a plug and play in your flex in a PPR format and still produce and get you double digits almost guaranteed weekly.
Now let's shift to another guy in the same group, and we're going to talk about David Montgomery. For me, David Montgomery, one of this too late category. We're going to another category. We're going to talk about guys to buy. I think David Montgomery is one of the biggest buys out in Dynasty right now. I think he is the perfect candidate. If you can somehow swing Christian McCaffrey for Montgomery in a late first, maybe a 2023 first, 2024 first, but I think he's like the perfect candidate to try and swing an older guy for younger guy type of deal, because I think no matter who's the coach, no matter who's the quarterback, Montgomery is going to feed in the Chicago offense. Even if he leads, I think he's the type of guy that he's a true number one. I think he does well in the passing game. He's a good blocker. He's good at running up the middle. He gets goal line carries. I just think overall his value is going to go up higher than it is. And with the season where he was injured and had some time off, when there's a lot of those owners out there that look at like points, they just look at points.
Yeah.
He only scored 130 points this year. Well, I agree. So here's a first round pick in 2022. It's 112, but take it. I'll take Montgomery. You might be able to swing off deals like that. You shouldn't, but you might. What's your take on David Montgomery?
Montgomery is one of those ones, I agree, is a buy low and reap benefits type player, because he's a utility player. He's got solid hands out of the backfield. He gets those between the tackle runs. He can cut around the edge. And, he doesn't really have a goal line vulture to take points away from him inside the 5. So he's one of those running backs that I really like, but he's also one of those running backs that I have a love-hate relationship with, because when I do buy him, it's like I'm either getting him and then he starts his slump, and I'm too late on the buy to reap the benefits, and I got to wait for the benefits, or it's the owner is absolutely basing off of unreal expectations and wanting an ungodly amount for him, because they think that they see the potential times 2. And that's another thing you got to look at, because you need to look for value, not potential value. And I think that's where a lot of trades fall apart in a lot of leagues, which is somebody we're going to talk about soon.
We'll talk about him now. Let's go and talk about Saquon Barkley. Let's have Saquon Barkley, and a guy whose value is falling tremendously. I don't know what it is. Last week there was a game that was close, and the Giants were beating the Eagles, and he only ran the ball 13 times. I don't understand what's going on. I know he missed some games this year. What did he miss? He missed 4 games. He missed 4 games, but he's currently in PPR formats. He's like the running back 40. I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, as a Giants fan, I don't get it either. But he's a player that a lot of people are going off of his potential versus actual, because this was just discussed in a league. hi, Mike, I'll call you out. Puts out he needs a tight end. I'm sitting there with Kelsey, Ertz, and Goddard in 2 seconds. So I offer Ertz in 2 seconds for him. And I was basically told that I'm a fucking idiot because that's nowhere, not even a starting point. And that irks me too. If you put a trade out there that you're looking for something, don't try to play coy when you get offers involving something you're looking for. But Barkley to me is a key player that people base his potential on his actual value. Yes. Is he a beast of a running back? Yes. When healthy, when he has the offensive line to run behind. And when you're looking at running backs, they can have all the potential in the world. But if they don't have a line to run behind, they're not going to produce. If they don't have a quarterback that can get the ball downfield to open up their passing game, they're not going to have those opportunities. This goes back to the age-old Emmitt Smith versus Barry Sanders, who was the better running back. Emmitt had one of the greatest lines in football history, produced. Barry produced with a mediocre line. So this goes back, and this is something you need to weigh in. This is where you do need to do your research, see what your stats are. Your yards per carry factors into some of these decisions. You could have, if you get 13 carries and your yards per carries in the mid fives, that's solid. But if you're getting 13 carries and you're at 2.9, that's a reason for concern. That's where you need to start evaluating and looking to unload.
So what is Barkley for? You never said what he was. What are you doing with Barkley?
I think you've missed your window on him. I think, and that's coming as a Giants fan. I think his window is very small, if not closed by now. You're pretty much going to be, because you're never going to get the value he is, and his injury status. I mean, ACL injuries are hard to come back from. Not everybody's Adrian Peterson. So they're not immediately going to bounce back. You're going to have those lingering injuries throughout your career. You're going to be hampered by them. You're going to be, it is a mentality game. I had my ACL and MCL tour when I was 13 years old. I'm 43 now. I still favor that knee. And I'm not as athletic as I used to be. But in the back of my mind, psychology, that knee is never 100%. No matter what anybody tells me, that knee is still not up to say. And when you're on that elite level of a running back in the NFL, when that is your bread and butter, that is what puts food on your table and what gets you money when contracts come around, self-doubt does creep in, and you kind of favor things, and you want to protect not only your health, but your way of life. So I think you've missed your window. If you're holding on to Barkley right now, you've missed your window to get the actual value out of him.
Yeah, no, that's true. And so the hardest part is if you're trying to buy, you're not going to be able to buy him for what is worth. And if you're trying to sell him, you're not going to be able to sell him for what you want. And you just got to ride it out. You don't hold for hope that it's more. It's too late. You just you have to wait for like one big game. Your window is literally one big game, and it's got to be the right person. That's it. Moving on to the next person, let's talk about Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs, for me, is a guy that is another buy candidate. There's something about this whole group of running backs that have like Montgomery and Josh Jacobs, and I don't think they're valued correctly among the dynasty community because we got new shiny toys, which we'll talk about here in a little bit in the next tier of players, and everybody kind of just like discredits them. And like the Raiders bring in Kenyon Drake, and we're all like worried that Josh Jacobs is going to lose everything. No, Josh Jacobs is still a very talented running back. He's still playing on a pretty high-powered offense, a team that's scoring 20, 25 plus points a lot. And they're always in games, it seems like. Very rarely are they just out of it. And I think when healthy, which is a big factor of all these running backs, I think his window is to buy now. And as the offseason hits, realization is going to come around that Kenyon Drake is not in the offense, and he's just going to be more valuable. If you have him, don't sell him now. Wait till the draft, maybe post-draft to sell him. But really, I think he's a guy you should be trying to buy at all costs.
See, I'm going to disagree there. I am not a Jacobs truther. Outside of Derrick Henry, I'm not an Alabama running back at all. Alabama running backs typically are not successful in the NFL.
That's not even true. That's the most false statement ever.
All right, outside of Derrick
Henry, Mark Ingram has put up a good career. Josh Jacobs is putting up a decent career right now.
Mediocre.
They're RB1 and RB2 numbers that they put up year in and year out. Josh Jacobs the same way. We even saw I'm drawing a blank now on his name.
Eddie Lacy a few years ago.
Eddie Lacy had RB1 numbers. We had Trent Richardson had RB1 numbers. Alabama
but the longevity.
But we're talking about windows here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Longevity. Yeah, you could sell him. And this is my theory with Jacobs. I'm a sell now person because you get people just like you that are Alabama truthers. They're like, well, look at this, look at this, look at this. Okay. You know, I'm going to sell you. Okay. You're wanting this you're wanting this high value, but let's look at the stats. Let's look at his yards per carry. Let's look at his goal line work. Let's break this down. Let's see how good he really is. Let's see when they have, because the Raiders are not that good. That's why sneaky Derek Carr puts up QB1 numbers because they're playing from behind. They abandoned the run game. That is what I factor into Josh Jacobs early. Now, if the Raiders get a lead, they're going to lean on that running game. Jacobs is an asset. But the Raiders are not typically going to be in the lead. They're not going to be in clock management. So that's going to give him a ceiling and limit the potential. So I am a sell now while you can get value out of Jacobs.
Now, we'll move on because I don't want to be on players too long and everything. But knowing what you just said, if you ever own Josh Jacobs, I will never have to overpay for him to get him from you because I know you already know his value is going down because you don't like Alabama running backs. So you've shown your cards. So now if you somehow end up with Najee Harris in 2-3 years, I'm going to get him for a wide receiver too because you don't value Alabama running backs. I think that trope is it's overused because we don't get longevity out of it. But if you really break it down, there's really no school that gives you longevity at positions anymore. In my opinion, I don't think schools have a reflection on how good actual college players translate to the NFL. I don't actually.
Right, quick question.
Go ahead.
What is your, or we could say this so we could answer this at the end. What is your shelf life for a running back? How many years? How many years production do you want to get out of a running back?
5 years. If I can get 5 years out of a running back on my fantasy team, then I am more than thrilled. We're talking straight through rookie contract, hit that 5th year option if they're first round pick. Otherwise, first year of the brand new contract. And that's when I like to sell.
Okay. So I got some homework to do for next show.
Yeah, that's kind of where I turn and I burn and everything. So let's go ahead and let's talk about this new generation. Let's talk about, no, we're not rookies, but we're going to talk about Antonio Gibson, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, DeAndre Swift, Jonathan Taylor. These are going to be really quick because I believe that these are all in, their values are still there. I think this is going to be easy. Jonathan Taylor, let's just quick say, he's a hold, right?
Yes, he's a pillar.
DeAndre Swift, he's a hold, right?
Pillar, yes.
Values are only going to continue to go up. All right, now the next two are the tricky ones. We're not going to talk about those two guys because they're top tier of running backs right now in fantasy, and they're in their second year. They're going to continue to rise. Now let's talk about Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Antonio Gibson. What are you doing with both of them? And then we'll move on.
I'm holding until a big game, and then they're immediately going up the trade block, especially CEH, because everybody expects him to be a beast in that offense. And that offense is built around the passing, not the running game. The running game is second tier.
Well, PPR back is the benefit of him. That's what everybody's doing.
Well, I mean, he's not even getting the PPR looks. I mean, he's still middle of the road. I mean, this is another. Well, we'll wait and see what he does. So this is one of those players that, let's wait and see what he does. First big game, I'm sending offers out. Look what he's doing. He's got that youth. You can build around him. I'm hyping him up as much as possible. Antonio Gibson, same thing in that offense. I'm waiting for one big game. If he's after that one big game, I'm going to start sending fillers out. I'm going to start conversations. The next week, if he's having a big first half, offers are going out immediately to try to get some value back for it.
I agree. And with them having injury season, here's the thing about this song. I know you're wanting to sell. I think that they can be great candidates to buy now, because I think when they were drafted and after their rookie year, their value was so high. I think their value has taken a huge dip as well. And I think these are type of guys that you can acquire in the offseason a lot cheaper than you could this previous year. If you have a late first round pick, or maybe you have an early second, 2-1, 2-2, 2-3, I wouldn't, but there might be an owner out there that might be willing to, I'll get rid of Clyde Edwards-Hilaire. And you can pull up, I mean, we don't know what he's going to finish with the year, but you can be like, hey, he played 6 games in his first 6 games last year, only had 10 receptions. He doesn't get that many catches. And you might be able to pull him from somebody, and then you can turn around and flip them when he has a big game for more. And it's just like a flea market. You go into a garage sale or whatever, you just buying something, you turn around and sell it on eBay. You Gary V this. So let's move. We have what? We have 3 guys left. One's a big name, 2 are a little bit names that I think are easier, but we'll leave him for the main event. Let's talk about Zeke right now. Now, Zeke is kind of injured. Dallas Cowboys are going to kind of hold on him a little bit. So they're going to rest him some, give him some carries, but he's also got Tony Pollard breathing down his neck. What are you doing with Zeke?
Same thing. Once he starts getting the work that he should be getting, I'm going to start selling him because he does have a very formidable running back right on his heels that can produce younger and cheaper. So, this is where we kind of get on the NFL side versus fantasy side. So you could sell Zeke as a RB1 to build around, but I think his shelf life as a Dallas Cowboy is shrinking tremendously. Therefore, his window in fantasy is also shrinking. So I'm telling you to get the value while you can.
And see, this is weird. I think Zeke's value might be done. I think it's a little too late to sell him. I think that people are going to struggle to kind of sell him for anything that is of what his caliber is, which is still a running back 1, mind you. I think it's going to be very hard for people to sell and to push out. Now, if you can somehow find a Dallas Cowboys fan, find a Tony Pollard owner, and find somebody that has a late first round pick, flipping him for an early first round pick or a late first round pick might not be bad. Also, he's the type of guy, if you can sell him for a future first, that might be ideal. If you're a team that is right now in Dynasty, 6-6 or worse, if you can flip him for a future first round pick, not this year, I say do it. Because it'll help you lose more games this year, which sounds weird, but it will. So you're not going to be the first team out in the playoffs. And you might have a higher draft pick this year, draft a running back. And then that next year, when you got 2 first round picks, you can double down, get a running back receiver, and kind of just keep building. But I think it might be the time to sell for a far asset, if anything. Now,
yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because you also got to look at the mentality. You got to be playing chess when they're playing checkers. If you can get a 2023 first and you're looking for the future, not a lot of people's going to look past this draft class. Not a lot of people's going to do the research on that. So selling them for maybe a year later first may definitely be a good option for you in the Zeke realm if you can get that value.
So let's talk about the last 2 running backs here. And we've been running for a really long time on these guys. Let's kind of, this guy's going to be quick. I'm going to let you have a whole lead on this one. Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon is at a resurgence. He's back. He's not this like, dead to the water. I think I know what you should do with Joe Mixon, but I want to hear, what are you doing with Joe Mixon?
He's currently on my trade block after this past week.
Sell.
After I think it was in most formats, 40 plus point turnout, that was, like you said, a resurgence. He went immediately on my block. I started looking at people like, hey, look, you're a contender. In the 2 leagues I have him, I'm middle of the road. Look, you're a contender. One of them has Cook that just went down. That was my first owner I reached out to. Look, this is going to help you in the playoffs. You just lost Cook. You don't have Matson. You're going to need somebody to fill that void. I'm rebuilding, so let's swing a deal. He's still going back and forth. He's waiting. He's iffy, but our trade deadline is kickoff Sunday. So he's batting it around. The other league, it was the guy that's rebuilding. He's also a team that's rebuilding, who gave me a first, which is going to be top 4 pick for Mixon, because he's a Bengals fan. Second and foremost, he has someone that he feels he can build around because of the age. He's 25 years old. He thinks that he can build around him. He's like, this is what I need. This is the missing piece. And those are the owners I love, that are at the bottom tier, but think that they're just one person away from turning their dynasty around.
All right, let's talk about last person here, Derrick Henry. He's out for an injury, but he's a big-time player. He's proved people wrong because everybody was like one and done. He can't do it again. And, I mean, technically, he's not going to do it again because he's hurt. But
right.
I think Derrick Henry value is going to, as soon as he's healthy and everybody sees that he's healthy and in shape, his value is going to be at the highest point it'll ever be at again, and you must get rid of him immediately. I know it's hard because he's a potential top 3 running back every year when he's healthy. You got to get rid of him. You've got to get multiple first. This is the type of guy that you can get 3+ first rounds for. You need to do it this offseason. Don't fuck around.
Right. And I mirror that wholeheartedly, because Derrick Henry he's a man among. He's a beast. I mean, let's get real. He is an absolute beast. He's the outlier in my Alabama argument. He is the outlier, but his value is going to start skyrocketing because, one, yes, he does have a lot of miles on it, but he's still producing. So when that rehab hype starts kicking up, that's when you need to start talking to owners. You need to start looking at who is on that cusp that feels like they're that one player away, that, that flex player, that they need that flex player or RB1, that, that they've convinced themselves that if they get this player, then they're going to be a team to contend and a championship caliber team. That's where you need to start your trade discussions, because it all evolves around the teams that think they're one player away. And Derrick Henry, yes, he could be that one player they need, and it could propel them for a championship. And you notice I said a championship, not multiple championships. Always look ahead, sell when the value is highest. When his rehab comes out, because he's going to have rehab and all that time rested up coming into OTAs.
Yeah, and as soon as he looks healthy and everything like that, the value is going to still be there. People are going to start talking about how he's going to be right back to where he was, and he probably will. But if there's ever a guy that you can get 3 first-round picks for plus that you need to sell, maybe trade him away, and maybe you get like Michael Pittman and 2 first-round picks. You do the deal because it's good value for you long-term, and don't mess around. And that's it for our show here. Running back windows, they're smaller than you think. Sometimes, you're going to hold for another 2 years. Sometimes it's one game, and you've got to hit it when it hits right, because you never know what's going to happen to these guys. They break down all the time. And just because, it was your favorite car growing up doesn't mean that you need to ride it for the rest of your life. Go buy a new car. It's okay. Turn it in, trade it in, get something new. Simple as that. And that is going to do it for us here on Second and Short and the Cheap Seats. You see everything down here? follow us along on all these social media platforms. Hit us up, follow us on TikTok, ask us DMs on Twitter, hit us on Second and Short. Jason's Twitter handle is right there under our Second and Short handle as well. Message both of us. And yeah, good luck trying to manage and navigate these running back windows.